So let's go through this example now. I've got a table with just some random numbers that represent theoretical expenditures. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through and categorize them as C, I, G, net exports, or not included in GDP. And then we'll add them all up to get our aggregate expenditures, which is our measure of aggregate production. So the first one is really easy, right? Consumption expenditures should go into C. Exports, also pretty easy, that goes in net exports. Government purchases of goods and services will be government spending. Okay. Now, the next couple are a little bit more tricky. So, construction of new homes. Now, these homes are not necessarily sold. A lot of times it takes time for homes to be built and then for those homes to be sold. So this is just construction of new homes, and this is going to go into I, investment spending. Anytime we produce a product but it hasn't been sold yet, or we're investing in our production process, that's going to go into investment spending. Sales of existing homes does not count towards GDP. Remember, what we're trying to do is to measure everything that's being produced in this time period. And if I transfer a home, somebody owns it, now somebody else owns it, I have not produced anything. Same with a car, right? You have a car, you sell it to someone else, nothing new has been produced, nothing new has been created, and that will not count towards GDP. All right, imports, it's going to go into net exports. The next one is a tricky one. Beginning of the year inventory and end of the year inventory. This is how we think about changes in investment over time. We start out with some number of goods at the beginning of the year. Now we've added some more to that. We've invested in our business. We've accumulated inventory. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put both of these into investment, but only the difference is going to account towards GDP. So we're going to do end of the year inventory minus beginning of the year inventory to show how much investment spending we had to increase our inventory during this time period. And say we had a decrease in inventory, that's okay. That negative number would go into our GDP calculations because some of our consumption expenditures would have been on stuff that was already in our inventory in the beginning of the year. So we would want to subtract that off. All right. Business fixed investments, also going to count towards investment spending. Government payments towards retirees, not going to count. Nope, not at all. Because here what we have is a transfer of assets from one person to another. The government takes in tax revenue, and then they use some of that tax revenue to build roads and schools. That's spending on goods and services that will count towards GDP. But they use some of that revenue to give to people who are retired, right? We have Social Security payments. So they mail a check to your grandma. That is not going to count towards GDP because nothing new has been produced. We've simply taken money that used to belong to a worker, we've given it to the government, and the government has given it to a retiree. So this does not count towards GDP. It's just a transfer of assets from one party to another. And the last one, going to go in consumption expenditures. And you'll notice here that we've broken out these durable goods, which is actually an important measure of what's going on in the economy unto itself. We look at durable good expenditures because it gives us some sense of consumer confidence. Durable goods are products that last a really long time, like a washing machine or a car or a refrigerator. So you only buy it once every 20 years, maybe. These are purchases that are easy to postpone. So if you're nervous about the economy, you're not going to run out and buy all new appliances or buy a new car. You'll just stick with the one you have a little bit longer. So household purchases of durable goods gives us some sense about consumer confidence in the economy, which is in and of itself an important measure of what's going on in the economy. All right, so the last step here is to add everything up. We've got C, all right, we've got I, That's 250. We've got G. And we've got net exports. And total, that gives me Y, which is total expenditures, which is our measure here of aggregate income and aggregate production. On the next page, we're going to go through an example of calculating real and nominal GDP using a different method. So I'll see you in the next video for that.